Hi, everybody, and welcome to Community Cleric. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm here with the that side, super amazing Anne over there. I'm so excited. I've been waiting to do this conversation for so long, and I'm so glad that this has worked out. For those of you who are new here, this is Community Cleric. I do a weekly interview, conversational style interview with a different woman each week, going deep on gaming and dice and how we became nerds and all of the things. And my name is Sarah. I am from Nova Scotia, Canada. I live in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq people here in Nova Scotia, Canada. And it's not very often that I get a fellow Canadian on the channel, but we're meeting all of our CanCon requirements tonight.
I actually looked into what the CanCon requirements are because I was like, damn.
I think so. For those of you who aren't from Canada, you maybe don't know because most likely you are from a dominant culture wherever you are. But here in Canada, we have laws that, like on radio station and television, like 10% of their programming must be Canadian specific programming, which is and if they film in Canada, they must acknowledge Canada at some point during like each episode. So what you get is like all of those sci-fi shows that film in Vancouver, like Psych and Stargate, and Fringe was an excellent show that was filmed in Vancouver, and Schitt's Creek and Kim's Convenience, and like all of these amazing shows that are starting to become crossover hits. You'll hear them say something either overtly like about Canada, or they will say like the names of the street are like clearly Canadian names, right? Like we know Lansdowne and Linden Street and like, right?
The most
Langley.
Specifically Canadian things on TV. And I'm like, filling a quota.
I see you.
And they also have like the most specific rules about Canadian music specifically too.
Yes. Go ahead.
You either have to have written the song, or if you're like an American, you have to have co-written the song with a Canadian or something like that for it to count as Canadian content, like on the radio and stuff.
It's and thank goodness for CanCon laws. So CanCon laws obviously apply here in Canada, that any radio station broadcast outlet has to abide by Canadian content laws and provide like 10% CanCon. And so like we're not technically, Girls Run These Worlds, not technically registered in Canada. We are an American company. But, you know,
I was going to say, are we the 10% Canadian
We're
content?
the 10% Canadian content this week. Stargate had Planet Kelowna. I loved that. Yeah, Battlestar Galactica filmed in Vancouver. And it also, I'm getting texts from all of my friends who watch this about all of the CanCon that they have recognized. Terminator 2, Supernatural. Thank you, Tasha. Yeah, Supernatural. Terminator 2 has several Canadian references because they filmed in like Ladner, I think. It's
Battlestar Galactica's reference escapes me because
Battlestar Galactica had several, because I remember watching it live and watching them. But like, I think just the guy who played like Commander Saul Ty.
Oh, yeah.
He was the CanCon. Like he was so Canadian. He hit the CanCon requirement.
He was the CanCon.
He was the CanCon for that particular show. Okay. I think for sure. That's got to be it. CanCon is absolutely a thing. And let's just shout out for a second all of the amazing Canadian bands that have benefited from CanCon, because like, first off, I was joking with, and you're on Vancouver by night, you know, Steve and Joe, like, yeah. So there's a good crossover point. Joe is in the chat. Yeah. Battlestar Galactica was, I was talking with Steve and Joe that we should do a cross Canada TTRPG charity-a-thon where we just like we start over here with me and we do the Hops and Dragons guys and the and Vancouver by night, Toronto by night. We should hit the Blackwater D&D folks. The
Critical Misses. Panita is in.
Is she?
In Canada somewhere, yeah.
Ontario, probably.
No, not Ontario.
Really?
Further east than me. Yeah, I just don't remember specifically.
Is she out here with me?
Is Canadian.
I'm gonna have
not
to message
know
her.
this.
I didn't know
you might
that.
have to have her on this channel for a conversation.
I will swap. I would love to go talk to her. And Noir, did you see that interview they did with Matt Mercer on Saturday?
They are doing great things on that channel.
So good. Uplift.
I was there.
And their Discord is the best Discord name. So their channel is Critical Misses. Their Discord is the Critical Miscord. Come on.
I have loved being a part of that community and working with Panita on Queer Society, and like you gotta reach out to her. Just the most delightful.
You gotta introduce me. You gotta introduce me.
Okay, you know what? We're gonna make this happen. But before we leave the subject of CanCon, I'm gonna say two things. Number one, I may be the only Nickelback fan left on this planet.
I liked Nickelback,
but I like
haters.
Nickelback.
I liked Nickelback.
Yeah. People need to calm.
Photograph was a great song. I'll say it. Fuck y'all.
People need.
I will turn chat off.
That's kind of a meme, though. Like, I mean, it's a very memey song.
I think our viewers dropped when I said that. Actually, I watched my viewer. I don't think it was because of that, but look, I don't care. I don't care. That's where it's at.
But also,
thank you, Sean.
One of my favorite things in the entire world. I personally adore all sorts of like cheesy reality TV, but specifically like reality talent shows.
Sure.
I am a fan of the British ones specifically.
Okay.
And there's a competition called Dancing on Ice where it's a celebrity and a professional figure skater. And it's one of my favorite things in the world. Only in Canada will you find a figure skating competition that turns hockey players into figure skaters for charity.
Okay,
it's
wait.
The most wholesome reason, for the most wholesome reason, because it's Canada.
Okay, hold up. I have to go back and finish thought, but I also want to say this. You're too young to remember, but there was a movie in the early to mid 90s called The Cutting Edge. What? You know about that?
Okay.
Look.
I'm going to say
DB Sweeney, Moira Kelly. That was a hype ass movie.
I did not see the original Cutting Edge until recently, but the first Cutting Edge movie I saw was the one with their daughter, and they had to age her up because Christy Carlson Romano played her.
No.
And she was supposed to be like, it was actually like 14 years later.
I love Christy from like
but they had to age her up because,
played their daughter.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I can't remember, but it's the second Cutting Edge movie. Like,
look. If you are looking, it's got to be on Amazon Prime. If you are looking for a good, cheesy, deliciously beautiful romance where the woman just whips this big gruff dude's ass until he absolutely worships the ground that she walks on, it is this movie. It's called The Cutting Edge with DB Sweeney, Moira Kelly, like 94 maybe. And like my grandparents, until the day they died, when my grandpa was wrong about something, my grandma would just look at him and go, toe pick, which is like the meme from the movie. Until the day my grandpa died, my grandma could humble him by saying toe pick. I love that movie. Look.
The
Singless, let's get a link in here.
The sequel came out in 2006. That's the one with Christy Carlson Romano, The Cutting Edge, going for the gold.
I'm going to find it.
It's the story of their daughter now going,
amazing.
Teaching her own hockey player how to skate. It's amazing.
Look, okay. We're we're already 15 minutes into this. This show is going to go late. I'm sorry. We needed to go.
Did we meet the CanCon quota by talking about Battle of the Blades?
Almost. Let me say this. 2 Canadian bands that don't get enough love other than Nickelback would be the Arrogant Worms, who wrote a song called The Pirate of Saskatchewan. And it is, I mean, they've written so many good. They're like late 90s, early 2000s nerd white rock, you know, like in that style that like Bare Naked Ladies is that style also.
Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't know that was a whole thing. I thought it was just the Bare Naked Ladies.
No, it was a whole Canadian thing. Like it wasn't anywhere else. Canada like pioneered that level of white nerd music. And it like kind of picked up in other places, but Canada set that standard. Hey, Zev, it's nice to see you, buddy. And so the Arrogant Worms, they have a song called The Last Saskatchewan Pirate, Thank You, Multhulu. It would be the best TikTok sound for Canadian TikTok. Like somebody needs to make this happen for me. I think that we're getting to our CanCon requirement, but I've had a lot of not Canadians. You might be the first Canadian that I've had on here. Wait, let me think. Sarah's not. Jazz is not. Rose. I had Rose, and Rose is Canadian. But I think, because I haven't had Nikki or Amanda, and Joe, who's like lurking here, Joe from Vancouver by Night, who is just fabulous and everything, is like has a life, a super busy life, and just doesn't have time for me yet. And I'm going to get her at some point. She's going to have to be on, but you might be my second.
You got to put that on the schedule, you know, like you got to. I just
got to book her. But this is episode 17 and you're my second. So that's still better than 10%. I feel like I'm still really meeting CanCon requirements here.
You're doing really great.
Plus me, and I talk through half of these things anyway. So look, I'm going to take credit.
Great.
And in case you are not aware yet, is this bubbling ray of sunshine that is just wholesome and kind. Well, not wholesome. Sometimes very not wholesome. We mark her stuff as like not safe for work sometimes. But like wholesome for like good for community. She loves people, and she is just so like welcoming to people in that way that I felt like an immediate kindred connection with her, because I think we share some of those same qualities of like wanting people to feel at home, wanting people to know that they have a place and that they're loved and cared for and welcomed and supported. And like that, yeah, such a ray of sunshine. Fuzka, I totally agree with you. You're right for that. And it is my pleasure to have Anne with me. Anne has been with me or is with me on several Girls Run These Worlds projects. So she is the facilitator for Regency Remix, which is a gender-bent Good Society. Good Society is like Bridgerton, if you're not familiar. It's like Bridgerton, Jane Austen, Regency era. It's not D&D. It's its own rule set. It's called the Good Society rule set, and it uses tokens. That's what I know. That is the max that I know about Good Society.
That is all you really need to know. A lot of it is like negotiation where, you know, if you want something to happen and someone else is affected by it, you all have to come to some sort of agreement before anything goes. That is the basic premise.
I love it.
Which is what that's the part I love the most about it, because, you know, like the concept of consent is built into the game. Like you can't do anything that is detrimental to someone else's character without having their consent. So that is like my favorite part about it. And, you know, we can create drama as long as we're both, you know, all parties involved are cool with it. You know, that is something that, you know, like I love it so much. Can't tell you how much.
I mean, like several like many games worth, many ongoing games worth.
Maybe at least 3 more seasons.
Sure,
worth.
Absolutely.
You know, like I have ideas. I also want to bring like new people in and just like come play with me.
I think
I love playing new playing with new people.
Yeah.
Like when I got cast for Darcy's Lancer game, I was like, I'm going into this in a different way because I didn't know the other players and I knew like Darcy from a different stream, but
Right.
I was like super excited because for me, every table is an opportunity to make new friends.
Right.
You know,
I do know, because that is how I feel about it too. Not everybody does. So I'm glad to have you on to agree with me on that. I love that. So let's talk about Lancer for just a quick second. Drop that. It's not a bombshell. We broke it a couple weeks ago, but like Lancer, it's called Love in the Time of Mech. And Darcy here in chat is running it for us. I'm super stoked. And it's you and Amelia and Angela and Gask. And we did our session 0 weeks ago yesterday. I know it was only yesterday, but also time is weird. So it feels also like weeks ago.
I feel like okay, so remember what I told you after the Regency Remix Session 0?
Yeah.
And I told you that I felt magic. I felt it again as a player this time, but like just that instant
energy,
connection and energy with people. Now it's like, this is cool.
Yeah. It's going to be such a good cast.
I'm already like plotting and planning with everyone, and I feel like I've already like it almost feels like instant kinship, instant friendship, because everyone's just out to have fun and tell the story together.
I think if nothing else will ever get anybody to apply to support Girls Run These Worlds, like either as a cast, but also we're looking for producers, we're looking for graphic designers, we're looking for moderators. If you want to give your time, and we do transparent profit sharing, it's nothing yet because Twitch doesn't pay out until the 15th of the following month, but at some point there will be money to share, and it's all transparent. Please come and work with us, because if for no other reason, the Discord that we have going is so like supportive and wholesome, a large part of which is Anne's loving support there. But just watching you guys, because I get to see all of the channels, just watching you guys interact and just supporting each other and bouncing ideas off of each other. I'm like so excited. I think, the only thing in Girls Run These Worlds that we don't need is like somebody who does music, because Sean does all of that for us. I'm just teasing him in chat because he needs to take a lesson from the women here and recognize his worth and be like, yes, I'm doing a great job. And I know you've talked to him about this too.
I have specifically voiced this to Sean. We appreciate you. All you have to do is say you're welcome, because we are extremely grateful for the gifts you bring. I'm a fan of the music,
right?
Like the Regency remix theme. I love it so much. Like,
And even if you don't, like, he posts his, like, just stuff that he's playing with, just for us to like give feedback. And that is so cool to listen to, like, somebody who gets music and can like do different stuff with it. I listen to them all as soon as he posts them. I love it. And Multhulu, thank you. Yes, Multhulu, in case you haven't checked the Girls Run These Worlds Twitter, which I will link right now, there is a whole link of Multhulu yesterday did a bunch of Pride GRTW stuff for us, and they're also good, and I'm so excited. It's lovely. Okay, I have to get to this actual interview because we're just going to keep talking, which I don't mind, but technically this is an interview, and Ryu is going to get upset when she has to do this podcast because like she's looking for specific markers and she's going to have to listen to 20 minutes of us not hitting those markers
and making jokes about CanCon
which okay, first question is the same first question for everybody. How did you become a nerd?
I think that I've always been a nerd, in the sense that I have always loved the things I love and love them with my full chest. Like
Right.
things like Sailor Moon and Card Captor Sakura when that was a big thing, and Power Rangers. I was absolutely obsessed with that. And, you know, I wrote fan fiction that my parents thought were a waste of time. And I did all of the nerdy things kind of in isolation for a long time. And it wasn't until like I graduated high school. Like in high school, I did band and I was like a stereotypical nerd that way.
Right.
But and I still did my fandoms off to the side by myself.
Right.
But it wasn't until I started college where I met people who were like me, who, were super nerdy and loved nerdy things. And I discovered my two kind of current nerd touchstones, which is Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, kind of at the same time. Because as a freshman in college, my whole idea was like, this is my gateway to meeting people. Then maybe, I won't have to talk so much, or, because when I start talking, I get going. But if I'm playing a game, then maybe I'll have to concentrate on the game more. And then people won't find my personality to be too much. And so I joined a Magic the Gathering club in order to have like that social gateway.
Right.
I am still friends with one guy that I met at school, and he and I still hang out, which is cool. So that's really great. So I made a best friend out of that. And then I also kind of dabbled in D&D a little bit. Like I tried to do a session, it didn't work out, schedules and things. I started going to the local game shop, playing Pathfinder Society and like organized play situations. I did some 4E at the mall.
Okay.
They had the encounters sessions.
Right.
Like, I did not hate 4E.
That's fair.
I did not hate 4E. It did different things from 5E, but I thought it was fun, and it was a great like evening thing to do.
And I think like with everything, the person who's running the table makes the biggest difference even over the rule set. Like if you have a bad person running the table, it doesn't matter what rule set, it's going to be a bad game. If you have a good person running the table, it doesn't matter what rule set, it's going to be a good game.
It's all about the vibes, Sarah. You got to have someone who cares about the players.
100. Could not say it better. Could not say that better. Love that.
So I tried D&D to impress a guy. Didn't work out so well. I kind of went off on my own and found places to play. Then I ended up LARPing for like 2-3 seasons, which essentially it was a fantasy LARP where I was like dressed up in elf ears and like
awesome,
fake armor for.
Do pictures exist?
I have no idea, because usually people like there's the odd picture. I'll have to look because I didn't realize I would be. There are like very few pictures, and I'll have to find them, but I will show them on Discord later. Discord
I would love that.
Y'all.
Discord exclusive. I love it. Fantastic.
I also did a zombie apocalypse LARP one time. There's a really cool picture of me in the rain dying, which it seems morbid, but like the shot was so cinematic and like it just looked really cool, even though I was like dying because I couldn't fight properly. It was a whole thing, but it's my favorite picture of me ever.
I love that.
So, Discord exclusive, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of like my nerd trajectory. And then I stopped LARPing and then had to, go to the Philippines, family stuff for a few years.
Sure.
So most of it I've transitioned to online things a lot of the time, private games. Yeah, but the short version is I learned to play TTRPGs to impress the guy.
Look, I mean,
not the best start.
You know what? It is what it is. That is reality for some people. Like people try all kinds of stuff to impress a potential partner. That shouldn't catch flack. The only thing I want to circle back to is you said that the reason you started playing Magic is because if you had a game to support your social interaction, people wouldn't think you were too much. And we have a saying at Girls Run These Worlds. And the saying is, are you going to say it or do you want me to say it?
By all means, go ahead, Sarah.
If somebody says that you're too much, they are welcome to go find less, because we love the extra. That is what we thrive on, is women thriving to their full potential.
I do have to say there are certain challenges that I have socially.
Fair.
Which involve too much of this, not enough listening. So it was also just me like being able
learning social skills.
Yeah.
And you were in high school. I get it.
I was transitioning to more like of a grown-up place, as an 18-year-old, and I wanted to not feel so awkward. And,
that sings to my heart. Like, I know that there are several of us who are in the autism version of neurodivergent on the chat right now. And I can totally understand that, because I am still discovering pieces of myself that I have hidden or kept locked away or have masked because I was always told it was unpalatable and it wasn't good. And it, so like, I understand that. And I am not. And if I made you feel bad around that, I'm very, very sorry, because that was not my intention.
I absolutely respect the intention behind the message. And I absolutely agree with it a lot of the time. But I also, younger me was at a place where, she could have,
that's understandable,
learn to listen better. Like the ADHD brain she didn't understand she had.
Right.
So,
I think
still struggle to listen sometimes.
I think that's really interesting, because a lot of the women who have come on that have a theater, like I know you come from the band kid background, but like the other high school art that you can choose, and that the community art that you can choose is theater, right? And all of the women that I've talked to that come from theater say that the crossover of why they liked TTRPG was they got to practice those same skills: collaboration, communication, working together, listening to each other, and vibing off of each other. So like, I think you're onto something there, that TTRPG can be such a critical piece to learn those kinds of things and to experience them safely through the eyes of somebody else without feeling personally attacked by them,
Right. And, like, I struggled a lot making friends, like, growing up in school. I was, being like a minority in a predominantly like French Canadian, very, very white environment, for lack of a better word. I struggled really hard with making connections. So, like what people would view as maybe the beginning of my villain story, I consciously was like, I am not going to be upset about this. Right. I'm going to turn this around for myself, and I'm going to choose kindness every day.
Right.
To the point where now I can't think of choosing anything but kindness because I have trained myself. Like I have, woken up daily when it was difficult for me to choose kindness and choose kindness anyway.
Right.
So, like it's a choice. People can wake up and they can choose to treat people badly and lash out because they're having a bad time, or they can choose to, lend a helping hand to someone
Right.
who might be experiencing the same things they are.
Right. I love the way that you put that. I think for myself, I don't think I've ever chosen to wake up and be like, today's my bitch day. Like, I'm sure maybe there has been a day or two like that. I think the bigger challenge that I personally have is if I'm not purposeful about assuming good intent, about assuming competence, about trying to think about the other person's side of things, those skills, then I default to not a like fuck everybody else, but just like a selfish, just like focusing only through my eyes. For me, like I definitely have to be purposeful about like putting myself into other people's shoes. And I don't know that everybody has to do that. But like, I remember reading a book. My parents, I look back and I can see that my parents were struggling to raise me because I was different and they couldn't figure out why. Because autism, when I was growing up in the early and mid 90s, looked like stereotypical autism. And I didn't fit that mold. And so they never, my mom's a special ed teacher, never even guessed her mind that that's what it would be. But they were struggling and they gave me a book they gave me two books. They gave me the Tao Te Ching. And when I was in like grade 6, which is like advanced reading, but I was an advanced reader because autism. And they gave me 7 Habits for Highly Effective Teens by Sean Covey, who I'm sure would not surprise me if he has turned out to be like a major piece of shit Christian fundamentalist, like maybe he hasn't, and that would be great. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but he was in that kind of like movement circles, but the lessons in that book, like think win-win. And like there's lessons in that book that have stuck with me, and the way that he taught it was so, so important. Yeah. But this is not my interview. This is the Anne interview. I like talking to you so much. I find you so personable, and I could just share stuff with you. So, Kaz, thank you for raiding us, buddy. Kaz the DM. Thanks for the raid. Thank you. Vibe check. We are doing so good. I'm taking too much of Anne's time by me talking. So I'm going to go to my notes. Look at how Can I say Anne is a ringer. This is not a fair interview. Thank you for the follow. This is not a fair interview because Anne has been watching Community Cleric for a while and went back and wrote down what questions I asked so that she could prepare for these questions.
Okay, first of all, no, I did not go back and write down the order of all of the questions. I only specifically prepared for the last one where, shout out your friends or people who have influenced you, because I did not want to come to that unprepared, because I was like,
that's fair.
But I've also seen enough of Community Cleric to be familiar with the format.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. How did you get into streaming? Like, I know how you got into TTRPG, but how did you make the transition into streaming?
Somewhere on the internet, somewhere on YouTube, there is at least one video from 2015 of me playing Dungeons and Dragons with like one of my earliest online groups.
From 2015?
Yeah. Or 2016, around that era.
Mm-hmm.
It was back when Critical Role was brand new.
Yeah.
And the fandom wasn't as big and scary as it is now. And there were a couple of critter-based like Twitch channels and communities. And I had played one of my earliest streamed characters with this particular group, and a handful of a couple of them have now become like really amazing content creators in their own right. But yeah, 2015 was when I first kind of tried it for the first time, but I didn't transition into like actively seeking out more opportunities until recently. Mm-hmm. When I was in the Philippines in 2021, I streamed a little bit of Shadowrun with Buka Juice Games. BJ, he's one of the like more prolific Southeast Asian writers.
How do you spell it? Because Singlis will pop it into chat.
Hold on, let me find it real quick. I'll
And while you're finding it, I'm just going to shout out some of the things that you're in for us. So you're in Regency Remixed on Tuesday nights. You're the facilitator for that. Lancer, Love in the Time of Mex launches. Our premiere date is Wednesday coming up, just under a week from today, at 3 p.m. A time, an afternoon time, 3 p.m. I think Eastern. It might be 3 p.m. Atlantic actually, but sorry. I'm not looking at my calendar. And it's going to be so good.
Send this. Do you want me to just whisper it to Sean?
It's to Singlis.
Singlis? Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Person. Yeah, I'll just. Okay, so
1 p.m. Eastern. RPG? Thank you, Darcy. Thank you. I will be sure to be there on time because I'm producing it, and so much more. And yeah.
So I was featured on Buka Juice RPG, Buka Juice.
Awesome.
Which was strange for me because that was the first time I was at a long-ish term table, but it was a predominantly Filipino table, which, you know, obviously this face, I looked the part, but I was also like diaspora, which meant that, you know, I wasn't as proficient in Filipino. So I felt a little bit awkward. It wasn't that they didn't understand English, but they spoke predominantly Filipino.
Right.
Because that was the vibe, right? But I definitely understood what they were saying, and I would, you know, sprinkle some Filipino in, but it was a very strange feeling of like, I've been here a couple of years, but I'm still not, you know, it's hard not to feel different in that situation.
Yeah.
And it's a very strange experience to feel like the theory behind it is you're not, you know, half of whatever cultures you are, you're 100% right. of each of your cultures.
Right.
Except I didn't feel like I was 100% Filipino, you know, I felt split down the middle, and it was this really strange experience. Mind you, I had the best time with that group, and I could not participate in the games anymore. I could not be featured on that channel anymore due to time zones when right. I moved home.
Right.
But, you know, like BJ, the GM whose channel that is a very big writer, historian, like TTRPG writer, who worked on the islands of Sino Una and did a lot of research for that.
On what?
So
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Which incidentally, he's actually in my shout outs list for later, but we'll
get
drop
there.
his name. Yeah, so I got to play at his table for a few weeks. That was a highlight. And so that was when I in earnest decided to play more TTRPGs on stream and seek out those opportunities. But I didn't really get I really didn't start to get those opportunities until I got back to Toronto. Just time zones and availability and stuff didn't work out.
Right.
But I also did some, I did an attempt at variety streaming in February 2021.
Right.
I also like had kind of this idea that I would play Tetris on stream and make friends with people. That was kind of my vibe. Like I wanted to grind Tetris and become a professional Tetris player, because that was like how I got through the pandemic. Part of it was just watching like NES Tetris professional competitions, like the World Tetris, the classic Tetris World Championships. And then I was in the what they called the friendly scene, which is the kind of casual competitive scene that they had. Like,
right.
So I was starting to get into that a bit, and then I had to leave my streaming rig behind. So I don't think professional Tetris is going to work out for me anytime soon. But you know, the TTRPG situation is looking a lot better for me right now.
I mean, I definitely I started Community Cleric on my own channel. And, you know, I'd had it for like a year before I did Community Cleric, and it did not go great because I don't like talking to myself. I really like talking to other people and interacting with other people in that perfectly neurodivergent way. So, yeah, for me, like being able to, well, Zev is here in chat, and, you know, Jazz, and Najra, I met I mean, Jazz I knew before, but Zev and Najra I met, at Vancouver by Night playing in like my first stream, which like, I was thinking about the other day, it's barely been a year since the first time that I streamed a TTRPG. Like, it was a year, maybe a couple of weeks ago, which just blows my mind.
Happy anniversary of
thank you. And the friends that I've made and like the connections that I've made have been so awesome. I know you play Lancer. I know you play a lot of Good Society. Alice is missing, which Darcy is. I've never played it. You've played it approximately 237 times at last count.
Actually, last count was only 17, but I was going through some stuff in 2021. Mostly a lot of loneliness.
No judgment. No judgment.
I facilitated it a whole bunch.
I'm so Darcy's going to run an off stream. I have learned that it is not necessarily the best thing to stream because you don't get to talk to other people. It's all like through text, which is going to take me back, because that's how I met my husband, was playing an email based Star Trek RPG in 2003.
I dated a guy that I met at LARP. We were both dressed up as elves.
See?
So, you know,
look,
I dig the RP, the RP connection. It's real.
It's totally real. I'm so sorry. It's been such a crazy week for me. I yawn all the time. Usually I hide it. I yawn every week because when my brain starts going, I get tired really quickly.
I'm still here with you, Sarah. I'm still here with you. I
usually hide it behind my Diet Coke, but I didn't because I feel so comfortable with you. I don't feel like I have to mask around you. Email Trek RPG 2003, Delport Breckland. Yes, we played through Yahoo games.
The Yahoo groups, right?
We played through Yahoo groups, the play by email
like
system.
A forum, but the post gets sent by email, so you can reply it through your email.
Yes.
I was very young and probably should not have been doing the things I was doing on the internet.
I was young too. I when I met my husband, I was 19 when I met my husband.
I lied to people and told them I was 18 for 6 years.
And nobody guessed.
I've also been lying recently and told everybody I was 30 for the last 6 years. So
look, I mean, between those two ages, 18 to 30, that's 12 years. So you've covered your bases. You're good. I love shame in that. I love that people have some love for Yahoo groups here. I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to ask you, how do you feel about the Tremere?
You know, I am a relative newcomer to Vampire the Masquerade, and I am indifferent. Here's the thing, though. like I have played Vampire the Requiem, and I have feelings about the kind of the blood magic involved in that game, like with the Ordo Dracul, the really nerdy vampires. And I'm just like, you know what? Not for me. Like, that's cool. It's your thing, not for me. So I would assume that if I were to look at Tremere, I would probably say, that's cool. Not for me.
Not for you.
Know?
I have never played Vampire. I don't know anything about it, except that people get upset when I bring up the Tremeres in a positive way. Some people are like pro Tremere. And some people are like, this is the worst. And here's my very little understanding of what the Tremeres are over multiple conversations about why people feel this way. They're in Vampire the Masquerade.
They're ritualist vampires.
Yeah.
They're like
and
magic vampires.
Yes. And they got their vampirism not in the traditional ways. They gained it through like a sciencey, magic-y way, and like interloped and then like killed a fuck ton of people and like took over, right?
Okay, here's the thing. Vampire the Masquerade has like decades and decades of lore, which is why I never played it before like V5, because I kept my knowledge strictly to V5 to keep myself from getting overwhelmed and, refuse to play a game that I'm clearly missing it, that I have been missing out on. So, I will say what I say about the Ordo Dracul from Vampire the Requiem and their weird rituals and blood magic stuff. And I'm going to say, it's cool if you're into that, but not for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. I had Sarah, MC Diabetes. For those of you who aren't following her, you totally should. She's a creative partner over at Martlet Games.
Sarah.
She's just so damn professional. I look up to her every day when I'm trying to make a business decision for Girls Around These Worlds. I go, what would Sarah do? And I'm not talking about myself. She's so good. We cast. She's running Bluebeard's Bride for us. We cast that show Monday night. When I tell you that I have yet to see one of our creators cast a cast that isn't perfect for who they are as a creator, because she is professional and like on time and gets her shit done. And you guys all know the process, right? You guys come into the Discord, we cast your crew, you come in, we get them all into the Discord, we ask them for like names and pronouns and headshots, and we start gathering stuff for media and for the website and for ads and stuff like that. We send out the waivers. You have to have a waiver to play on Girls Run These Worlds to protect everybody who you're playing with, all of those kinds of things. When I tell you, I sent the Discord thing saying, hey, just in the next couple days, we need your waiver, we need your pronouns, we need your headshot. Within an hour, her entire cast had returned everything, reading the directions fully and doing exactly what we had asked. Like, it is her, like you have such a deliciously thirsty, hilariously sibling group for Regency. And Darcy has like, I can't even tell you the chaos that Lancer is going to be in the best of ways. But like, oh yeah, I love watching that so much. You LARP, you stream, you've played other games. Have you played Sina Una on a stream yet? Are you going to?
So here's the thing. I want to. I followed an actual play for a while, but they went on hiatus and they haven't come back, and I feel really bad about it. Critical Bard was on it, and one of the creative directors, Seer Sword, they were playing at it. It was DM'd by HT Paladin, who, I admire from a distance, like the work that those people have done in Sino Una, and then watching people like Latia Jacques and
Come
Critical
on.
Bard,
Mhm.
take this in with like
Yeah.
joy and enthusiasm. And Josh Simons,
Right.
Joshua Simons, like these, I've said this to a friend earlier today in a discussion. I said, seeing yourself represented on the screen in the media you watch, in the actual plays you enjoy, it's really cool. But for me, I think the important lesson people can learn from TTRPGs is that it is a way to learn and experience other people and other cultures and to develop empathy and
Right.
the ability to put yourself in other person's shoes, which it may seem like it comes naturally to me, but
Right.
that's years of me being intentional about it.
And I think you hit on something really specific and important there that I want to like tease out a little bit more of. It is a way for you to experience empathy and to build like to bond yourself to the beauty that that culture has, not to appropriate or stereotype that culture, which is
to learn from it.
Yes,
specifically by the people who have created this piece of art, this piece of work out of love.
Yes.
And I've called out people like Critical Bard for taking the Islands of Sina Una content and like approaching it with the deepest care.
Right.
Because it's a cool thing their friends did and they want to learn more, And that's the thing I think is missing a little bit from discussions about representation. Like, I have benefited from, watching, Critical Bard. I will shout them out because they are an awesome content creator, but also like watching them DM an all Black table, or watching streams like Blackness and Dragons. I've learned a lot from watching them tackle things the way they tackle them at the table that they can only do because they share a common perspective, culture, right? Like there's a comfort there, and I learn a lot from that. I also got to shout out Desi's and Dragons. I'm like, what's up? Like, and I also have to shout out KP11 Studios.
Come on.
KP is always like, we should put more like Bollywood style content out in our TTRPGs and like, have that piece of the culture, not appropriate it, but learn about it and, like integrate the joy of the culture that way. And he's like a fantastic advocate for his culture and like teaching people and just like sharing the things that bring him joy, like Bollywood music and Bollywood movies and media. So I gotta shout that out. And those are the things that have enriched my life the most. And I follow a lot of people on Twitter, and I shout people out a lot, like TTRP Gifts, RoboGoblin.
Yes.
Made a whole like TTRPG awards and constantly is uplifting people, but also like going into charity work and working with marginalized voices that way and raising money for different causes, but also featuring all like Latin tables on his channel as well. Like, I'm already going through the shout out phase. I'm sorry if I
that's okay.
Skipped forward.
No, that's okay. Let me say, I've talked about this before on the show, but a few years ago on the Oscars, Kumail Nanjiani was nominated for writing for The Big Sick. Have you seen that yet? It's like the true story of how he met his wife, or how he met his wife's parents, because they weren't married yet, and they had been like dating for a few months and broke up. and she got sick and like ended up like in a coma, and he was the emergency contact or something like that, like a few days after they broke up.
Oh,
And
no.
he had to make this decision of like, her parents weren't there yet. Her parents lived somewhere else. They lived in like the city, and her parents lived in the South. And he had to make this decision of like, no, put her into a medical coma and save her life, even though they were like broken up. And then her parents fly in, and it's super fucking awkward. It's with Ray Romano and what is the girl's name? She plays Miss Incredible.
I don't remember.
Somebody's going to shout out her name. It's so good. And so he and his wife wrote this true story about like, you know, like it's fictionalized, it's dramatized, but it's the story of how they met. It's on, I'm sure it's on Prime here in Canada. And they were nominated for an Oscar. And in that year's Oscar montage was like a backlash of Oscars so white. And he said, Holly Hunter, thank you, Roll for Felicity, Holly Hunter. And he said, I grew up learning to speak English by watching a bunch of white guys try to figure out life on camera. And I learned empathy by watching them. It is their turn to learn empathy by watching me and putting themselves in my shoes. And that has stuck with me so much of like, I wonder how much, you know, you said you have learned and picked up by watching other people share their cultures, but how much of that is because fucking white supremacy has made you feel like you're not totally always included. Like, you know, you started the show with saying that sometimes you struggle with like that immigrant piece and you're not really 100% either. You know, fuck white supremacy. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say.
Message received, Sarah. I'm sure everyone else watching understands what you're saying. And, you know, I absolutely agree. And I think that has definitely informed my perspective on how to approach other people, in that sense of like, I guess if I wanted to make friends, you know, I had to really expand where I was looking beyond just the predominantly white space I was in, you know, and, you know, I still end up in predominantly white spaces a lot, especially in my offline activities. My best friends are all white, and they're all delightful human beings that I met in college. But for a long time, I felt like, you know, if the majority weren't going to love me, I had to go to places where I could make connections with people who felt like they weren't wanted.
Right.
So, you know, that has colored my perspective my entire life, really.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and through shifting my perspective that way, it's enriched my life in ways that I can't even explain. You know, like one of my best friends in like grade 6 was in a wheelchair, like cerebral palsy, and just, you know, like, you know, just she didn't get a chance to really mingle with the rest of the kids, and I didn't think it was fair that she got left out of things. And, you know, I just, you know, it's just how it is.
It sucks, man. It sucks.
My heart feels for, you know, people who just get left out. Yeah. That's really what it is, you know.
I mean, I look like this, so my immigrant experience is very different. The fact that I look like this and moved from America to Canada made my immigrant experience 100% easier than other people's immigrant experience. But I can definitely identify, because in the last week, my friend and my niece have been here, and my niece came in the first night, and she's just coming. She was spent like a month in the States. And she was like, I don't understand imperial measurements, and they're so illogical. And I personally felt attacked. Like, she was not attacking me. She said nothing about me. She's not talking about Americans. And like, I've lived here for 20 years. And I still struggle looking like this to fit in. Like, I still get people going, where are you from? I look like this. Why would you assume I'm not from here? But, you know, like, I can't even begin, even with what I've gone through. I find it hard to really put myself in the shoes of people who have had to deal with some bullshit. So yeah, I feel what you said.
This may not win me any friends, but I think for a long time, in order to cope with a lot of the blatant racism I experienced, I kind of forced myself to shift the focus from, you know, the race thing into, you know, I'm going to focus on the people who are left out.
Right.
You know, I think for a long time, I was just not emotionally capable of dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned it into not a race thing. And I was just
Right.
like, I'm just going to reach out to people who feel left out. And
Right.
that kind of made me feel good for a long time. And I think it wasn't until I became more perpetually on the internet where I had to kind of undo that thing that I did to cope so that I can properly face the realities of my situation, I guess.
And like that intersectionality, right? Like, I want to steer us back into TTRPG content, but if we're going to talk CanCon, we have to talk like, yes, Canada has good healthcare-ish, and it could be better. It could be better. We could do better. But, you know,
we can always do better.
But really, Canada has some supremely racist policies and some pretty awful, you know, it's not that different than a lot of places in the States for a lot of people here. And it doesn't get talked about as much. And I need to acknowledge that fuck white supremacy. That's what I need to acknowledge. Can you show me your dice?
Absolutely. I have some pretty like standard dice. I picked up a box that says the Bard.
What?
Yeah, I found it at my local game store, and it had some dice in it. That I used for a character that was not a bard, so I took them out and put them in a different bag. And this is the case where I keep my dice for my bard, and they are the Orkira palette from Die Hard Dice.
I like this. There you go. Oh, and they're so pretty. Die Hard Dice.
Yeah, and you know, I've been following Lauren Urban, you know, Obo Lauren, who is a delightful human being and just a talented musician who, you know, obviously in the pandemic could not do the musician part of their life for a lot of it. So, you know, like, my heart felt for them, but like she also created so much more. She also created the most delightful character that I followed everywhere she went, like that she played this character. So, and you know, like, the dice just fit the color palette for
they're so a bard, pretty.
A bard that I was playing. And one of the dice is a metal die. This is my first metal die. It's a D20 that's part of the palette. And then, of course, Die Hard Dice gave me like a bonus D6. I also have another D20 metal die that is also just a bonus gift from the Die Hard Dice people, you know.
They're just so, when you order from Die Hard Dice, like they're so good. They're such good people. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I'm probably gonna just order from my local shops, like, you know, it'll probably be
Right.
easier for me to do that because of shipping, but I will find their dice locally and just buy a set of metal dice. Because now that I have like a couple of D20s, I kind of want more metal dice.
Right.
So we'll see about that. Yeah, I tend to I tend to I try to I try to pick out my dice. I try to pick out dice for each character that I play.
Mm-hmm.
But I always seem to end up with like red
Those
dice.
are so pretty.
A friend of mine who is also a music streamer on Twitch, Rock and Doc, he found a game shop in the Philippines and ordered them for me as a gift.
They're
last
so pretty.
year. And my favorite pink dice.
Are they glittery?
They are glittery, yes.
Ooh.
So those are the two colors that are the most represented, because everybody knows my trinity of favorite colors, which is red, pink, and yellow, which also incidentally are my three favorite like Power Ranger colors. Like my favorite Power Rangers happen to either be pink, yellow, or red. So that is a random lore drop for you that's not related to TTRPGs, but yeah, I do not have that many dice. Things get lost in moving, and I left some behind in the Philippines because I couldn't pack it all.
That's fair. Do you have like specific superstitions around your dice? Like when you do have them out, what do you store them in? And do they have to be 20 side up? And if they're not behaving, do you put them away, or do you put them to bed, or like what's your superstitions?
So, okay, I have some very distinct superstitions. Like, so my favorite number is 5. So I will set I will set 2 sets of dice that I will use for the game with 5 side up, and the D4 has to be the 4. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a really me specific thing. And if I have character specific dice, I will start with them, and if I have like, I will cycle through all of the sets that I have for the character. Usually I only have 1 or 2, but my bard has like 3 or 4. So
sure.
But once I've cycled those and none of them are doing well, I go to my red dice, specifically my red dice, because like red is my absolute favorite color, and it just makes me feel better when my dice are being crappy.
See? I love that. Do you ever use digital dice?
I do sometimes. Roll20, I'm pretty sure is just hates me. But sometimes D&D Beyond is okay. I guess D&D Beyond, has to be in a certain mood. Although I was playing on last Sunday, I was playing on Kira 858's channel, and I nat 20'd a wisdom save.
Amazing.
I think it was. And I didn't have a modifier for the save. I was literally like, if I don't save, I think it was a wisdom save. It was some kind of save where I didn't have a bonus. So when I nat 20'd, it was literally just 20. I was like,
amazing.
Yeah. So sometimes D&D Beyond likes me. But Generally, I have real dice and I love them, so I try to use them unless the GM or whoever insists on using just the digital dice.
Right. For everybody
But,
to see.
Yeah. So it depends on the situation.
Depends on the game.
But yeah, I definitely would prefer dice, and I always use physical dice in personal games, like private games. Because
I love that. I mean, I love my dice too, so I hear that. Do you prefer to DM or like storytell or facilitate, or do you prefer to play?
Okay, so I am going to say that I prefer to play.
Okay.
Just because I struggle to prepare for games like D&D that require battle maps, and oftentimes if I run D&D, it is very much theater of the mind, because I'm just like, I'm not going to mess around with like, CR of the creatures and like things that are monsters and tactics, whatever. Like, I just can't with that. But if I am running something like Kids on Bikes, I could run that for hours with my friends. And I do on a bi-weekly basis run a private game for my friends. So if it's more of a narrative control sort of situation and less about combat and tactics.
Yeah.
Which I could still do combat with theater of the mind, depending on what people are into. But if I have the opportunity to tell a story in more of a narrative sense, then I like telling stories, but based on what's popular and the games that are out there, I tend to want to play more often, especially if the games involve violence, because I can't run the violence, but I can sure as heck cause it.
I love that so much. That is good. Okay, we're way past time. Way past time.
So sorry.
No, don't be sorry, because we had kind of talked a little bit about like. Hi, Saren. Thank you for coming in, Saren 1992. We talked about like maybe going a little bit long so that we could send some love to a friend of ours who is starting her stream in like 15 minutes, right? Is that the right time? I think in Atlantic time. It's already 8:45 for me.
I understand time zones. I used to deal with like 12, 13-hour differentials for my things.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine having to wake up at like 5 a.m. to show up for a thing. I mean, I did it, consistently.
Or having to stay up, right? Like Zev and I, well, I mean, you play with Vancouver by Night. Zev and I were on a stream that was live stream Pacific evening, like evening, started like 9 p.m. Pacific.
I used to be able to do that from the Philippines, but no, not anymore.
It was brutal. We have, let me read this from the audience because I can't talk and read at the same time. Sarah in 1992 was wanting to get into D&D. They made a character, but they don't know much else about the game. What would you say is like your top tip for getting into D&D, Anne?
Okay, so hi, Saren. It is actually a good place to ask this question because I love games like D&D, and I can tell you that the first thing you should do is reach out to your DM about playing D&D. So I guess the first step is finding a DM who's running a game if you don't have one already. But typically the dungeon master would help players, get sorted, and they would be the first point of contact for creating a character. So if you just joined a group, the DM is the person who, knows the background of the world and the world building and have done a lot of work. So, they know how things work. You can ask them questions. I mean, my biggest advice for new players is to not be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Because,
Agree.
you know, that's how you learn things about the game. I don't recommend that you read the core, like the player's handbook or anything.
Not back to back for sure. I would say like Zev put D&D Beyond. I would say D&D Beyond is a great resource.
If your DM has like a subscription and has books and things that they are able to share, that is a great way to
I think the core rules are available. Like you don't.
Oh yeah, the basic rules are available on
which is really like you don't need to read all of like the player's handbook and the monster manual and the DM guide. You need the core rule set when you're first starting. Yeah.
What I would say too for like what I would say too is, yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to, you know, make mistakes, ask for clarifications. You know, it's all about communicating. Let's face it. TTRPGs in general, it's all about the back and forth and the communicating.
Yeah. And I would say like part of the job of the DM, if they are taking in new players, is to teach the game and the system. So the thing that I would say to you above and beyond everything that Anne has said and everything in chat that's coming out is brilliant. These people are experts here. What I would say is find the right table for you, because I hope that the table that you're playing with, the group that you're playing with is a great fit for you. But if you're not having fun, then try asking some questions, try asking for some supports. If they're not going to provide those, or if you're made to feel bad about it, you need to find a different table. Because there are absolutely tables and DMs like myself that relish the opportunity to introduce new players to the game and love to invite people and teach them as they go and can do all of the detailed role playing. But the other thing that you should know about D&D is not every person plays it the same. So you will find some people who really want the combat tactics and the math of it all. And you'll find some people who don't want any of the math and just want the role play and every little bit in between. You know, some people love the puzzles. Some people love social intrigue. Some people love, you know, just a dungeon grind where it's just nonstop combat. Everybody will enjoy it different, and that's okay. Find a group that really plays what you want to play and experience a lot of different things. You know, our channel is not sponsored by D&D Beyond, but D&D Beyond sponsors me and my high school and middle school clubs that I run. So I'm very fond of the fact that they are supportive of public education and TTRPGs in the classroom. And as Molthulu just said, and I'm curious what your thoughts are here too, there are so many shows like the other ones that you'd find on Girls Run These Worlds and in other places that that play, and you can just watch other people. I learned everything that I knew about role playing from watching Critical Role. Like for D&D 5e, I watched Critical Role. I was in love with the fact that they were actors and they were telling a compelling story. And then I started to pay attention to the mechanics by which they told that story. And that allowed me to then pick up the DM guide and feel a little bit more confident that, because I'm not I can't read to understand. But I'm curious, and what other than Critical Role, what are some of the other streams that you would suggest that show it off well?
So I think my favorite, and my personal favorite, is Dimension 20.
Oh, so good. So good.
So for me, I was an early adopter on Critical Role. I will tell you to the ends of, I will tell you, Vox Machina has my heart, right. Specifically. That story has a piece of my heart and a part of my TTRPG history. But the thing that Brennan Lee Mulligan does with the main, what is called the main quests, the main campaigns that he runs with his regular cast
Yeah.
is, he makes it an anthology series. He makes it like, he tells an intense epic story, but like 20 episodes, 25 episodes, like in a much more digestible, everything happens faster sort of way in terms of pace. And, he also takes the world building that he does, and he tells really fun stories, like
he's so
just
good.
off the wall, like ideas, like what if it's D&D but the Breakfast Club, which is fantasy high, or what if it's D&D but Game of Thrones but also candy, like and he somehow makes it make sense and compelling, but also like manageable for someone like me who sometimes has trouble getting past 25 episodes of anything. So that's my personal favorite. And I think he also manages to have different worlds that have different flavors, like you can go from like a Game of Thrones style epic story to like pirates, and the man has range. The man has range. And now he's on Critical Role, being a very scary
no spoilers. Master. No spoilers. I haven't seen it yet.
No. I just mean like a very serious
I don't know why.
master.
That's not going to stop me from hearing you. I'm wearing headphones, but
no. No, but what I'm saying is he has range. Like he can do serious.
He can do so much.
He can do goofy, and then he can do it in the same hour and have it make sense.
It is the thing that I love about Dimension 20 is Critical Role, particularly Vox Machina. I don't know that it was true for the Mighty Nine. I'm not totally caught up on Hell's Bells, so I don't know that it's true for Campaign 3. But particularly for Vox Machina was a traditional, tropey in the best ways, hero's journey. It was the Lord of the Rings. It was good versus evil. It was, like that's what we saw on air. I know that their home game didn't start off that way, but that's the journey that we saw when we were watching. But Dimension 20 doesn't necessarily follow. Sometimes they're anti-heroes, and sometimes like they're, and whether or not it's Brynley Mulligan, like Abria, or oh my gosh, that Bronze girl. Oh, I'm so looking forward to.
I cannot wait to see Bronze kick some butt in the dome.
It's going to be so good. But the different ways in which you can tell stories that aren't necessarily hero's arc fantasy, but still, I think that's one of the reasons that I appreciate D&D 5e so much, is that it is a rule set that is so approachable and so playable into so many genres, and also, like, I don't know how old you are, Sarah, in 1992. If you were born in 1992, you're old enough for me to swear. Like, fuck grognards that gatekeep. D&D can be whatever you want it to be. You don't even have to use the rules. You don't have to do anything TTRPG, and you can still tell a hell of a story. But yeah, Dimension 20 is right up there. So good. And the production quality is so high enough. Like it's so good. It's such good quality.
And I feel like Dimension 20 has only leveled up further when they started working with like Orion D. Black as creative director, and really doubled down on their commitment to telling diverse stories and bringing in all of the consultants and everything. Like it only got better, because I know that it was something that, like, I saw in an interview somewhere that it was something Brennan committed to early on, but like they really kind of really like leaned into that. Like, and Orion is just,
so
the work that is being done with Dimension 20, and just bringing in people like Gabe Hicks and that Bronx girl, like,
and even all of like the cast member, like I will pick fights for Erica Shee. I just love watching her in everything. Just that excitement, is just like, even in Vampire, she had that quality. Come on, even on LA by Night, right? Like, I love that so much. And you're right, like that commitment to telling diverse stories. And it was something that Ryu said to me really early in our meetings for Girls Run These Worlds is, we were talking about, we want diversity on our screens, but we also wanted that the worlds that our DMs and storytellers were populating were diverse worlds. And I was saying, like, I really struggle with that because I struggle, like, as a white DM with, like, how do I do this? I don't want to offend anybody. And so I kind of steer away from some of it because I don't want to be stereotypy or offensive unintentionally. And she just had such good insights for me. I can't wait to she is the only founder who I haven't gotten on Community Cleric yet. I can't wait to get her on here and just really drill her about, like, how you can code characters without being stereotypical and truly, like what you were saying earlier about, like, KP11 and Sina Una and, like, all of Into the Motherlands. There's another really great actual play to go and watch.
Rivals of Waterdeep too.
Coyote and Crow, Rivals of Waterdeep. Like, there's so much good stuff out there that that you can draw from. I just it's so important. So Saren, I guess the other thing is go watch and consume as much as you can. Try, I would say, between 3 and 5 episodes. Like, you can't judge anything in the first 3 episodes because people are figuring out production. Like 3 to 5 episodes of I'm working on it, Darcy. I think Anne is gonna pitch me something. I told her she can only run one thing for me at a time. And she's doing Regency Remixed right now.
We'll talk about it.
We're working on it.
We're going to need to make a plan because I need to put this energy and these ideas somewhere. And
it's going to be good. Okay. We are now an hour and a half in, and I could keep going for another hour and a half because I just love talking to you.
I don't want to.
I need you to get through your list because you have prepared for this, like the straight A keener. Keener is a Canadian word. Keener is not an American word. Keener does not exist.
Keener
Darcy,
is
keener a word that you guys use in England? Keener? Keener. Keener.
I don't know.
Like somebody who's very keen. It's not a word I grew up with.
I don't know. I don't know what the American equivalent is. All right. So shout outs list. Hang on to this. I'm going to put it in your chat so you can post it on the Twitch chat for everyone. Okay. So I am mentioning 3 streamers, communities all at once because they're kind of very close and interconnected. So Bree Dannon, Resident Bard, and Rule of Lore. Those 3 communities kind of like are interconnected, as in there's like people are like, it's almost like a shared community, but not quite. Rule of Lore is a TTRPG stream. They stream 2 shows. They stream an LGBTQ plus a D&D show called In Too Deep. And they also stream Infinite Horizon. That's their like flagship show using the Cypher system. And Bree Dannon is someone who I have been in fandoms with, mainly like the stream punks like Eric Campbell and Sam Delev and that group. We watched all of that content like on Geek and Sundry, like Callisto 6 and Shield of Tomorrow. She is a wonderful artist who recently DM'd GM'd a Teens in Space one shot based in her comic universe, The Phoenix. So yeah,
So
and
good.
Resident Bard is a moderator for both the Rule of Lore and the Brigade, Bree Danan's community. And he recently got into streaming
Awesome.
on his own channel. So like the communities all intermingle, and
Right.
John, Resident Bard, is like the support person that is like all over the place, but also streams himself. He's a editor for Bree's comic. He writes like one-page TTRPGs. Kobolds and trench coats, everyone. Kobolds and trench coats. And also, John has. I've got this tradition. I go into Resident Bard's stream and I ask for a tarot card pull before every big like TTRPG project. And he like gives me a vibe check, and it's like just a way for me to share what's going on, but he also like encourages me by doing this tarot pull. So it's become like tradition, and it helps me like when I'm feeling nervous. So those three communities are like amazing. I love everybody that I've met through that community, and between those three streams, it's kind of like my home base, my main kind of social outlet outside of when I'm not performing in things. The next person I'm going to shout out is TTRP Gifts, because I recently got a chance to work with RoboGoblin on some AIPI charity streams, and we work together, and I want to work with him more. He is a pillar of the TTRPG community, and you know, he's making space for Latin tables everywhere. Like, you know, like he's putting, you know, people who look like him on the map on his channel, but also doing a lot of charity work for other marginalized communities, you know, just the nicest guy you will meet, and also makes really hilarious gifts sometimes. Great guy. Because we were running late, I am going to shout out one last stream / community, and this is the Free Forge. So the Free Forge community, I recently got into the community. Like when I first came home from Canada, it was one of those streams that I was finally like able to catch live, because, you know, I'm back in Canada. And one of the cast members there, I've mentioned him before, Josh Simons, great guy. I've been following him through, you know, other streams. He did this, you know, in a campaign, and I became a fan of him for just the way he approached that. So when he said he had started doing a horror actual play, like a survival horror actual play, I was like, you know, I'm not usually down with zombies, but I'll give this a shot.
Stressing me out thinking about it.
It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but I will say that after I, you know, checked out that stream, I discovered, you know, beyond the
right,
there is actually like a really amazing community there, and
that's
they
awesome.
had recently finished their like flagship D&D campaign. So I don't know what else is coming up for the Free Forge in terms of new content, but you know, there was some teaser floating around, like DN Deej, who is the main game master there. DN Deej. I guess we can shout him out too. Great guy, super goofy. Don't tell him I said that.
Everybody tell him that Anne said that.
Yeah. Just you know, beyond the content, all of these people that I've shouted out all of these TTRPG channels also have really great communities and have made me feel at home, really diverse, inclusive, like amazing vibes. So, like, I don't know how I would have made it through the pandemic without, having been a part of these things. And
right.
now everywhere I go, when I go back to those communities, I'm like, hey, I'm doing cool stuff with Girls Run These Worlds. I'm so excited. And they're super happy for me because that's the way these communities are. And, they're my, friends and my like online families, and they are all amazing. I am getting emotional. I am sorry, Sarah.
Don't be sorry about that. Like,
nobody came to this stream to see me get emotional and weird.
I mean, I'm totally okay with it. I'm not squidged out by emotion. I totally understand what you mean about communities being important, because definitely like the vast majority of my friends at Vancouver by Night have, well, and it's I think it starts with leadership, right? Like the better quality the leaders are, the community will grow because of that.
Like,
right?
I can't tell you enough about how great the people are that are in the positions of leadership, how thoughtful they are,
makes such a difference.
How zero tolerance they are about like, bad stuff. They're like, we're going to nip it in the bud. And people who curate communities like that are valuable. And like the Free Forge, whether it's, Robo Goblins community or Rule of Lore, like honestly, these are my safe places.
It's so important. And like, if I had a loony, there's some CanCon. If I had a loony for every time that I heard Steve from Vancouver by Night say, like, a rising tide lifts all boats, and we're really not like, why you can have more than one tab open, support more than one person. Like, no, it's free. Thing, right? It's free.
That's the thing, right? Rule of Lore, Resident Bard, Brigana, and like those are the communities kind of all like meld into each other because we all just support each other and our friends and everything, right? So those three communities, I feel like it's just one really big community. So,
I love that.
There's no competition there. Like, we can all create the things we love, tell the stories we love, and not have to step over someone else to do it.
That's right.
And I will not step over someone else just to, get my spot,
Right.
I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm gonna, here, come on,
come with me.
Like, I'd be like, come sit on my lap. We'll just be at the table together.
Right.
We don't have to fight.
I so appreciate that. And we're actually about to raid into somebody who I think also shares those qualities and those ideals. For those of you who don't know the Space Jamber, she was my guest a few weeks ago. And she just, she went public yesterday with some like pretty shitty thing that had happened to her. And I'm not one to stir up drama, but like, she has always been somebody who I have looked at and watched and seen her say, and seen them. I'm sorry, I need to be very careful with those pronouns there. Seen them say like, I was watching them today mention in a Discord where we're both kind of involved in some stuff that might be going on for Pride Week for women in Pride. And they were like, it's really important to me that any table that I'm or panel that I'm at is like more than 50% BIPOC. And I'm willing to give up my seat to make that happen. And those kinds of things of not just like saying so, but being an ally really matter. And that's why we're very, very happily going to go raid into Space Jammer. And
I love them so much. And I'm so glad we were able to talk that extra half hour or whatever, because totally worth it.
Absolutely. I knew. Thank you. And thank you, Darcy. Yeah, I knew that she is she, because she's been my guest here, and this is a show that uplifts women. But I need to be careful that I'm using those more balanced. It's something that I definitely need to be aware of. Thank you, everybody, for being here with me. Thank you, Anne, for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
For my extra long, my XL content. We're like stacking up. We're banking some CanCon here. I appreciate that. It's gonna be.
I love being here.
I'm so glad that you're here. This is the last chance I'm gonna have to do an XL show, because in next week, starting a week from today, next Thursday, we'll be casting for a Web of Pain, a Deviance the Renegade stream from Onyx, from the Onyx Path.
Yeah,
and
Deviant the Renegades is a cool, like, it's really cool. And I've looked at it a little bit, and I'm like, and you don't need to be on the channel 3 times a week. You give other people a chance.
It's gonna be so good.
No. You know what, though? I will totally be lurking for that, because it's going to be so good.
And basically, like, I'm going to I don't even know that I'm going to stop my stream. I think I just go because I think I'm their producer. I think I just go to intermission and start them up. And so it'll just be like a 4-hour stream. That'll be Community Cleric and Deviant the Renegade. What are they calling it? They're calling it Dark Rites and Other Forms of Exploitation. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. When I saw the pitch for it, I was like, I'm greenlighting the shit out of this. I'm so excited.
That's delightful. I've been telling people, like, y'all should see if you're a good fit for Girls Run These Worlds. Like,
absolutely.
I totally like. One of your future guests, Candace.
Next week, I think.
I was like, hey, so when are you gonna do something cool for Girls Run These Worlds? So I kind of dropped that in there because I believe in the mission.
I can't wait.
Because if Candace pitches something, that's going to be so cool.
It's
because I've seen them around.
I literally filled the schedule in July and August and September. We have something running every day of the week. I literally filled our schedule. Different systems, different games, a variety of people from all over North America and Europe.
I'm getting cut off.
It's going to be so good.
Sarah's like, no, Anne. No, I've got other people. Just calm down.
I can book for October. If you want to pitch me something, if you want to pitch us something that you're ready to run for October and November and December, look, let's do this. Please, let's do this because I'm starting to look for that. So thank you.
People, viewers, if you're you're a girl running the world somewhere, pitch it.
Pitch it. We'll run it. We'll air it. Thank you. And thank you to all of my guests. Thank you to Singlist for being my amazing mod. As always,
we will see you. You're a real one.
Next week with, I think that Candace girl is my guest next week. I'm so excited from talking to you. I'm not even paying attention to anything else. Let me check my schedule. Yes, Candace, that Candace girl is my guest next week. I'm so excited for that.
Ask them about Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Maybe they'll run it for us on the channel.
I have 2 current pitches for Thirsty Sword Lesbians sitting in our creator application.
But we can always use more Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
There is no limit to that. Thank you to everybody for being here. We're going to go raid over to Space Jammer. Let her know. Yeah, Molthulu, I think it does. I think it might. Let her know that Anne and Sarah sent you. And thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you guys next week.